All right, welcome, folks. Today we are talking about CodeKidz. I have always been interested in how to teach programming, right? So at the school level, we don't really do a lot of this, at least not at my school. We did very, very basic coding, literally visual basic. And then we had trying to think, we had like a robot coding, which was literally drag and drop, right? So very little going on when I was young. Of course, I don't know what it's like now, but I'm always interested in what people are trying to do to teach coding. I'm obsessed with languages, and software is a form of language. So I am looking at CodeKidz today. This came out. I'm trying to think. I was looking back. It looks like about a year ago now, and it's still going, which is impressive. Most of these projects, especially on Product Hunt, are here and gone within a year. So I'm pretty interested to see what they're doing, how they're doing it. So to start, we're gonna walk through just the product. Then I'm gonna take a step into the branding and the business and some different businesses and make some theories on the wider space. So if you're only interested in just looking through the demo, just stick around for the first part. If you're really curious about what I think about the business model and other startups working on this, then stick around for the rest. All right, so let's dive in. First of all, the branding here is incredible. I would guess this is AI generated, but I don't know. I mean, I'm really impressed. Their color scheme is nice. The branding is consistent and dynamic. They've done a really good job. And so I came into this really skeptical. A lot of these are not very good, and I tend to rip them apart. Now, I think, I can't say a ton about this specific motivation, but from what I've messed around with, this is really interesting. So they've got a bunch of different courses, right? So they've got currently studying, but they've got Python for beginners. They've got an algorithm one, which is one I'm taking a look at. They've got some AI writing. They have Python for everybody, which seems like a total outlier, and generative AI for beginners. It really seems like maybe they're splitting up their business model, but that's not the focus right now. We'll talk about that in a bit. But here's what it looks like. So this is basically ChatGPT here on the left side, probably a custom tuned model, which is cool and smart. And then you've got your code right here. So what I think is really interesting is this is basically Copilot from GitHub, but it responds to what you try to run. So it's almost like it's automatically looking at things and giving you feedback all the time rather than you having to prompt it. Super smart. So let's really quickly say, I don't know, we want to return, right? We're just looking at addition. That's all we're implementing here. So if we want to do A plus B, yep. So it said, okay, like this is passing now. The add is passing. Let's work on the subtraction operation. This is really good. This is so much better than Code Academy was when I was young, or even Khan Academy. Like both of those, I remember struggling like crazy with them, scraping forums, looking at Stack Overflow, and even before that, not knowing what those were and really being stuck. So I think this is really interesting. This is a good little code editor. Again, much better than BlueJ, which is what I used to code when I was first starting. Apparently, this one's saying, oh, invalid syntax. Wow. I mean, again, I spent hours as a kid learning this. So I think this is really cool. I think this is a great idea. I love that it's running in the browser and I don't have to set anything up. This is run anywhere. I could run it on a Chromebook. I am really impressed so far by this. I think it's really cool. One criticism I have is you have these different teachers. I don't really understand what this is for. I mean, I guess I'm not the target market here, so maybe kids would love that. Rewards is interesting. I don't know that these necessarily work. I think Duolingo does a really great job with it, but I think this is really hard to nail. And that's it. I think it's super simple, super straightforward, and I'm a big fan of what they're doing. So if you just came for the high level look at what this product is, that's where it's going to be done. I'm going to start looking at the business now and start thinking about how this works. So what's interesting here is right now their costs are probably really high because they're using 3.5 by default, and if you upgrade, it's 4.0. Let me just show you. So this is GPT-4 for the Plus model. This is probably using GP 3.5 Turbo, which is still not cheap, right? So how many messages do we have back there? That was like 4 or 5 messages back and forth with a bunch of tokens. Like, this is not cheap. So I'm curious how they're doing it. I guess they probably limit it by energy points, so maybe this is more cost effective than I thought. Um, I'm really interested in the AI writing and drawing toolkit. I'm gonna poke that. I haven't looked at this, and this is actually what I use AI least for. Oh wow, that's interesting. So this is really cool. I am intrigued. I might actually do that one just to see. I've been hearing about folks use AI in writing, and I haven't really done that. But lots going on here. I think this is probably a good price point, 16, 17 bucks. Like if I had kids, I imagine I would probably shoot for that. This is really smart to do the family plan. Um, I'm a huge fan. I think they might have a little business here. I think this might stick around, and obviously it has. It's been around for a year. I think that their branding, the product, and the way they're pricing this are really strong. I'm a huge fan. I'm kind of surprised I haven't seen a product I really enjoyed in a while. I think this is a huge upgrade as to what I had when I was growing up and coding, and I'm really psyched to see it. So let's talk about a couple of other projects I found. So this one is this is what kind of more I grew up with, although I will say, one, it's on mobile, which is really cool, and two, it lets you run live code, basically Code Academy when I was a kid. They did have a little bit of an online web browser, but especially on mobile, it was like you just typed words in and it wouldn't actually compile and run. So this is really cool that they're letting you compile code in a mobile app. And I like this specific targeting with Python. I would consider using this. I think there's not a ton of differentiation here. It's a pretty commodity type product. And now that I'm thinking about it, this CodeKidz is commodity as well, but I think their differentiation is the user experience, right? Building in that feedback loop automatically is so smart. So I'm a big fan. I don't know what this one looks like, but it's kind of interesting. I though I'm still leaning toward CodeKidz. I think they need to really stay focused. That's the one thing about this startup is it's Python only. I think that's smart. My worry with CodeKidz is they're going to start to splinter. Learn to code. This one is Code Mentor. It's another product launch. This feels like a weird mix of Medium, Stack Overflow, and I think Medium and Stack Overflow. I don't really like it. I think it's interesting to be more peer to peer, and finding a tutor is really smart. This is definitely not as scalable, but I think it's really cool. So I'm here for people learning. This is actually the one I got most excited about. I am now really excited about CodeKidz, but this seems like the most fun. I'm sure the sounds are crazy, but this is the one I want to really dig into, and I might actually do a whole video on this one next. I'm really excited that I found it. These are less exciting to me. They're pretty normal, but this is like the branding here is so cool. Um, this one I found from Product Hunt, and I was kind of surprised it was on Product Hunt. This like it's like maybe like Angular or something. This feels very Angular-y. But quizzes, I think, don't really work here. That's my take. I think interactive coding is the best, so I'm not a huge fan of this approach, but props to them for getting it out there and building it. It's always fun. Now, this one, 100 Days of Code, I think is really smart because it builds out this social aspect to it. So I think that is what CodeKidz is missing, is kind of a social interactive feature. And that is tough to build. And Duolingo has killed it here, and I'm really psyched about them. So that's about all I have to say. I'm pleasantly surprised by this one. I'm excited that the next generation is going to have a really fun tool set for learning, right? I think LLMs are going to have some really problematic effects in other areas of life, but in this case, I think it's really great, and we're going to see folks learning computer science better and faster than ever. So thank you so much for hanging with me, and have a wonderful evening.